Hey guys, this is the V-Man from No Budget Productions, and with me today is Casper Rigsby. How are we doing, Casper?
Doing just fine. How are
All
you doing
right.
today?
Well, I got air in my lungs. I'm standing upright. I'm good, man. I can't complain. I can't complain. So, well, you are known for yourself in the atheist community, but you're also known as, it's been years since I've talked to you, and I was amazed when you sent me the links to what you were actually doing. I was like, holy cow, you had so many books. Um, so you've sidestepped everything that I do. You write books like I make movies. I mean, you just bam, 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 bam. I mean, you want to talk a little bit about that before we delve into the specifics of everything. What have you been doing since we talked last time? Because we talked. You gave me an interview, and we got to know each other a little bit, and then it just seems like there was this whole other world that like blew up for you. What have you been doing, man?
Yeah, man. When we talked, I was actually still with Atheist Republic at the time, and just after that interview, and I started doing more of the. We did the Devils in God's Country podcast with me and Allie, and had a great time doing that, and just started getting a little bit of attention. And our men reached out and asked if I wanted to possibly write a book and maybe start working on helping them publish books through Atheist Republic. And uh, I was like, you know what, I got a couple stories and stuff put together that I could probably, pound out into a little book and just pump out there. So we did that, and then we did a collection of work from Atheist Republic that we put together, and turned that into a book, and just started really pumping out publishing work there. And I don't know what came over me, but I ended up writing 9 books over the course of about a year and a half. So they just flowed out of me constantly as I really delved into my own journey into atheism, and what was going on in my mind, and how it impacted my view on the whole world around me and everything. So like it was a huge step in my life, and I just decided, you know what, let's put that to paper, and let's share that with folks and see, what other people's thoughts are on it. Because um I mean, it couldn't be too horrible, is what I figured. And judging by the star reviews for my books on Amazon, it was not too horrible. People did tend to appreciate them fairly well. I don't think anything has lower than the 3-star rating, so we're doing good.
Right on, man. With us in the chat right now is Frank Parker Jr. Afternoon, Frank. So for those that don't know, we have here's a little flashback for us. Going back, there was the interview, and man, this brings me back to the first time I chatted with you. You were such a, and this is ironically the place where I'm in. This is before my studio build. I'm sitting in the same exact spot I'm in now. You can see the action figures in my background, the little Batman carpet I have on my wall. I'm such a young buck right there. But chatting with Casper here, and you were so welcoming, and you had such a kind heart, man. And reaching out to you, about my experience and everything in that community. You were such a kind-hearted guy, such a friendly guy, and it's been what, 5 years, 6 years now since we had talked.
At least, yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, I went. You had sent me the links to your books and everything that you have on your websites. Which, for all of you who are watching in the chat or watching on the rewind, click on the links, check them out. If there's something there you like, show the support that you buy one. Take a look, see if there's something there you want. I'll show them up on the screen here in a second. But I was really surprised because a lot's happened since you and I chatted last. I went in the movie, or the fan film world. I've done like 100 some fan films, and tried to do my thing. You wrote a ton of books, and I was really surprised by that. I went through and I was like, oh man, because I screen capped, like I told you before the show, I screen capped for this show, which is something that StreamYards has done. It's kind of new, and I got excited because I can actually show pictures now and show the audience instead of just telling them. But screen capping, I was like, oh man, this guy has done a lot of stuff, which is really exciting. So let me show the audience some of the stuff you've done. And this one, the Bible in a nutshell. And this one is the engineer's argument. Let me get closer to the screen because it's kind of hard to read. My screen's really small. Forgive me. Everyone at home knows that I work on a cell phone. So, I mean, you guys, bear with me here. You guys know my limitations. So, again, it's part of the, technology is not my thing. So bless your guys' hearts. And this one is the Bible in a nutshell and atheist. Say that word for me because I'm not.
Atheisting 101.
There you go. I tried to say that in the car like 15 times. Like, I'm not going to get this word. I cannot do that one.
Well, then you're not atheisting correctly.
I believe I'm not. And then this one is holy shit, the insanity of blind faith. I really got a kick out of that one because as I was reading it, I was like, holy shit. And Royce was like, don't say holy shit. I was like, oh, sorry, Royce. So, nothing's better than your kid correcting you on it. I'm like, oh, man. But I love that one. Where is your God now? And then the passion of the atheist, exploring emotional aspects of atheism. Atheisting
101. 10
there you go.
Proper atheisting.
See, you got me on that one too. And then, hey, I'm pretty sure this is broken.
Yeah, that one's a political book.
So you delve not only into atheism, but you delve into politics.
Yeah, I mean they intersect. Just like people say that their faith, intersects with their political beliefs and their political views. My atheism affects how I view the world, which affects my politics. My atheism informs me that no other man or woman on this planet is of greater importance than any other. So I'm informed that I should strive for equality. So I am a diehard progressive, very liberal, and I fight for true equality. And I believe in that. And that is based on my atheism because I can't justify having any views that go against that because there are no justifiable, logical, reasonable views that go against that. There aren't any.
Yeah, no.
I've looked for them. There's no justifications for it. So therefore, I have to go with what being an atheist tells me. He says, no, the logical, rational thing is I should be for all, true equality. So it informs my politics. And that's kind of what that book is about too. Just talking about, hey, I think I've been looking around and I kind of think everything around us, at least in the US, is kind of fucking broken, man.
Yeah.
It's kind of messed up.
Yeah, no, it really is. You talk about how, being an atheist kind of informs your politics. It wasn't until, the last 5 years, I kind of stayed out of the political system. I never paid it much attention, but the last 5 years was when I really started kind of paying attention to that. And it was very, I want to say amusing, but fucked up is where it's like, this kind of lines up with this. Cause it's like, they kind of go hand in hand. Cause it's like, you're right about the equality thing where it's like, what happened to just being a decent individual? And it's like, when you start looking at one aspect of why that is, it's like, well, this kind of leads to this not lining up and being kind of a fucked up thing, and it is kind of ironic how much the ignorance kind of bleeds over to the political view and the religious and it's just like, it is astounding how much when your eyes are kind of opened to that, how much it's just it's like, wow. And they don't hear themselves on how much it's there, where it's like And again, for me, it's like, I kind of see that in the Star Trek, the groups, where it's like, the religious, they have the same, the anti views of, well, this isn't right because it's, screw the Muslims, or screw the immigrants, or screw the this. And it's like, wait, what? Because I don't believe that at all. It's like, I think that's horseshit. And then it's like, but don't you believe in the Star Trek future, which is supposed to be the equality stuff? So it's like, I see that whole thing as like, this, what? So again,
No,
I look at the whole,
their view of the Star Trek future, in their view, they're always an admiral.
yeah,
They're always the admiral that goes out and builds the huge military starship and
yeah,
tries to start a fucking war. They're
yeah,
always that guy. That's
yeah,
their Star Trek future. Or they're Klingons, or they're the bad guys in the Star
yeah,
Trek universe, and they don't understand that.
yeah,
Most of them probably truly deep down admire the Ferengi, and like that's sad. It's a
yeah,
sad state of being when you find yourself in line with Ferengi, but they would
yeah.
be, very diehard capitalists.
Yeah, I don't understand how you can say, you say you admire the Star Trek world, which is, hey, you need, if you're sick, you go to Dr. Bashir or Dr. McCoy or whoever, which is, hey, but yet you say here you can't have an abortion, you can't, and I'm like, wait, what, but yet, if you get raped, then you can't have an abort, the whole Texas thing. It's like, wait, what? I mean, but yet women are panicked, but yet you're forced to hold you. It's just, it's, to me, it's disgusting, because it's like, this woman who has lived the worst horrific thing that you could, one of the worst horrific things that you could think of, is forced to keep it now because someone can sue her for 10,000. I mean, to me, it's just, this is not how you treat people, and I find it abhorrent. And again, we who supposedly have no morals because we believe in no God, I don't understand that. Like, how can you how can you justify that? So no,
Well,
that was one of the things that you're in my conversation years ago. I connected with you on so many levels, and I know that your books have, you have moved. Steve Atwell says hello again. Hello, Steve. How are you doing, my friend? Welcome, welcome, brother. Um, but that was one of the things that you and I had connected years ago with, is the like-mindedness, the camaraderie. Um, but I understand that you have delved and moved past, being such a hardcore advocate for being, um, you know, kind of the outspoken atheist. I mean, you still believe the things you do, but much like with me, I don't, you know, I don't post 15 million memes every day, and I'm not, out there, fighting tooth and nail with them, because it's like, again, you can only do what you can do. At the end of the day, you have to be a person, and I got a family, I got a life.
yeah.
There's other things. You've written books, or you're starting to do other books, and a company and everything. What all have you done post those hardcore days?
Yeah. So, I really took almost a little over a year sabbatical from being involved in the atheist community. I left Atheist Republic, and I I focused on um, doing what I'd been doing with Atheist Republic, but personally for myself and for other authors who wanted to get their books out there and get their work out there, but didn't really know how to navigate the whole self-publishing world and stuff, and didn't want to deal with having some company come in and do that for them, that would come in and take a huge commission off of them and whatnot, or also take the rights to their work and then be able to sell those off and use them in a way that the author wouldn't care for. So my whole approach with my company, Anti-Social Media, is I work with authors to publish their work. I go through, I do the editing work, I do the formatting work, and I do the actual publishing work through whichever mediums they would like to publish through. So whether they want to go paperback or just digital only or all the way to hardback. Like we can go through the steps to get it done in whatever format they want. Even audiobooks. I'm currently recording an audiobook for a fellow author, J.D. Brucker. This is a work of fiction, a collection of short horror stories that hopefully, fingers crossed, I get everything done by Christmas and we get it out there so that folks can maybe swoop this up by Christmas. So I'm really focusing on the audiobook recording and my own fiction writing, which will be published under a pseudonym because I want my fiction work to stand as separate from my work in the atheist community. I don't want people just going out and buying my fiction work because they like the other stuff I did, because these aren't the same. They're not.
Right. So they stand on its own.
Yeah. My fiction work pretty much would fall into the category of horror. It's horror suspense, but it's not like you would think from like Stephen King or something. There's no supernatural boogeyman here. My focus is that the monsters are right here in front of us. They walk among us. We see them every day, and every one of them is capable of horrible, terrible, terrible things. And that's what we should truly be afraid of, is each other. Don't be scared of the boogeyman in your closet. The boogeyman's your next door neighbor. See, and he's got stuff chained up in your basement.
See, those are the better, and I'm not saying it because you're right in front of me. I prefer those type of stories, like the Ed Geins, the stuff that inspires the other type story. Because it's like the reality of the situation is the creepy stuff that you walk past every day, but then you go. They're like, oh, old man, blah, 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 died. Let's go. We got to go clear out the house. And you go in the house and there's like, oh my God, he was making lampshades out of fucking skins. And oh my God, this guy was creepier than, and we didn't know this was there, It's one of those things that, you don't know what makes a person's mind snap. And that's a lot creepier than the stuff that we make up, and just how close people are. Take stuff like that's like American Psycho, something that's very psychological, and it's right there, but you don't know what's going to push someone past that limit. I love stuff like that. I think that's it's a lot more interesting than like Jeepers Creepers, where it's like anyone can make a movie like that, but something that's very human, that's a lot more interesting to me. It's a lot more relatable.
I'm trying to also, with some of these stories, push the reader's boundaries of their own empathy and ability to relate with a character, because there's a few of these stories where there's not really a hero, like there's not really a good guy, so you're not really sure who you're rooting for, and it's sort of a push for the reader to question, do you really understand what makes people tick and what makes people snap and why people do what they do? Could you accept someone who's done something horrible, but they did it for messed up, but in their mind, right reasons? Like, can you empathize with that person? And so there's my push is to really broaden the boundaries for the reader of like their understanding of human nature and what they understand their neighbor to be and their family and themselves, really.
One of the things that I find, inspirational for, the horror genre, or at least, horror done right, for kind of what you're talking about is, go back to like classic Twilight Zone, where, you look at, and those are very short films. You didn't get to spend a lot of time with each character, but you got to, they told stories, most of the time that it made you think outside the box instead of, go to a movie now. And I don't like modern horror stories. I'm not a big fan of them because a lot of them are the equivalent of pop, right behind the person. Jump scares. I don't like jump scares. They don't work for me. To me, I like shows and movies that you watch something, and then at the end of it, you go back to it, and you're like, man, I'm still thinking about it like 3-4 hours later, you know. And take the episode where she's in the this beautiful lady's inside this hospital, but her head's wrapped the whole time, and they're like at the end of it, you see them, they're like ugly ape looking creatures or whatever, and she's
I just
the
saw
whole,
that one the other day.
yeah, to me, there's so many good classic stories that you could retell those today and the stories would still work because the stories stand on their own. And kind of what you're talking about is the same type of psychological storytelling where the stories fundamentally work no matter what environment they're in, whether it's a hospital or a school or a war zone or whatever. Like, the stories work on a fundamental level because it's about the psychology of what's going on. And I love those because, again, you watch a story and it impacts you, whereas jump scare stories that they do now, there's no substance. So I'm intrigued by what you're talking about. I really am. Have you written it? It's not. I didn't see anything like that on your site. You said you're keeping stuff separate. Is that?
Yeah. There actually are some of my fiction short stories on the Kindle Vella platform, which is
Okay.
a platform for Kindle, which is just a short story platform where you can publish a under 5,000 word short story on there.
Mhm.
So I've got a couple stories on there that are published. Um, but I don't really want to give away my pseudonym
Okay.
just yet.
Okay. Oh,
But
okay. Okay. Okay.
um,
Got it. Okay. So we'll keep that separate. And okay. Got it.
but
Okay.
the Kindle Velo program is really new, so there's not a lot of other horror fiction writers on there. So shouldn't be too hard to find some new stories on there. You might find something you like regardless. If you check out Kindle Velo, you'll probably find a lot of good new authors on there because they're really trying to promote it right now since it's a new program. A
Cool.
lot of free reads on there. So like you know how Kindle is, and you have to purchase books and stuff unless you do the subscription thing. So this Vela thing, you pay for being able to read them, but like right now they're giving away like 500, 600 tokens for reading. So that's like enough to read like maybe 4 or 5 different stories depending on their length.
Mhm.
So I mean, folks should check that out regardless. They might enjoy, just if they enjoy reading some short reads on there, they'll enjoy the Kindle Vella.
Right on. Right on. So you're helping other people get their stuff done, get their stories done. What made that transition? Like, what all made that possible, and what was that inspiration besides leaving, kind of leaving one area and going to the other? Like, what made all that possible for you to kind of do that?
Well, when I was at Atheist Republic, our men asked if I wanted to work with other authors and help them get their stuff going on there. I ended up actually working with, I think, all told, I helped publish 28 or more books for
Oh, wow.
Atheist Republic. So I have either editorial or publishing credits on, I think, all told, about 35 books. And it did just all of that editing and formatting and publishing work and stuff. So like because I had to figure it out for myself, and because our men, asked if I would help do it for these other people, I just gained a real good understanding of how to get it done. So um, when I was doing that for Atheist Republic, one of the things as the chief officer of the publishing division that I did was to draw up contracts, and I made it very specific of uh, made a very specific point of making sure we keep the author's rights. The author keeps the rights to their work no matter what. So if somebody came to Atheist Republic and said, "Hey, we want to turn this into a movie, but we're going to do this, 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 and this," well, okay, well, that's entirely up to the author. The author has 100% ownership of their rights. That's not up to Atheist Republic. You have to speak to them. And that's a thing that you're not going to get from any normal publishing house. It's just not going to happen. Some of them will buy your manuscript and never publish it. and they have the rights to it. And so your book just never gets published. And that was one of the things we wanted to avoid. So when I branched out working on my own, that's what I brought to the table with this, with anti-social media. Is that's one of our priorities. You keep the rights to your work. You control what happens to it. You have the ability to publish separately from us if you want to publish in a different format and make other money on the side. Whatever, that's fine. It's your stuff. That is your intellectual property, and you keep it. We don't have any rights over it except to publish this one that we've engaged to publish. And that's
So that gives them a lot of freedom to be able to control, and that also gives them a lot of trust with you guys to, you know, a good working relationship. That's one of the things that you know, my experience has been the complete control over certain aspects that makes people really clam up on working with larger, you know, kind of corporation type, you know, entities, you know, that makes them just be like, really don't want to, that fine print that they have to read, where it's like, I'm not comfortable with this. But what you're describing seems to be really a great deal all around.
I mean, you hear horror stories from people like Stephen King, you know, when he was younger and he sold off the rights to this or that to be turned into a movie, and then he was never happy with how that movie turned out, you know, but he didn't have a say in it because he sold the rights off to it, you know, and now he's getting to come back and have them remake some of these movies that he wasn't happy with. And, you know, I personally never wanted to be in that position. So I was always like, look, I need to retain the rights to this work. This is my intellectual property, and I should have the say over it always, 100%. So it was important enough to me for me to, you know, reach out to other authors and be like, hey, is this important to you? And they're like, yeah, that's important. That sounds incredible. So, you know, it was a big thing, and it's always been like sort of the pride of what I do, and that is making sure the authors, they have control instead of somebody else.
Well, it's been a big, one of the biggest, you know, Spider-Man's been a big thing in the media lately, but, you know, let's take Spider-Man 3, for instance. Just the, you know, Sam Raimi did not want to do, you know, he did not want Venom in Spider-Man 3. But the studio came in and said, no, we're going to put Venom in there because everybody loves Venom. So we're not going to do that. You know, put him in there. And Sam Raimi's like, I don't want him, you know, and it's one of those things where it's like, when you have too much meddling from an outside source, then you taint what the source was originally, you know, you taint what was supposed to be there. When you don't have the author's input, or he doesn't have any, you know, control over any of that stuff, it taints what the original product was supposed to be. So I completely understand what you're talking about. It's important to have what the original intent was supposed to be. And I know for me, having written, you know, scripts, and then, you know, it would be extremely frustrating to not have any type of input on what the movie's supposed to be. So it seems like you're doing a lot good for, you know, authors and their rights going into it. I mean, hell, Disney just had the, you know, Scarlett Johansson thing, you know, with, you know, everybody's rights and, you know, being taken away. So you're fighting for the little man.
Well, yeah, I don't have many other people on board with me right now, but I would like to promote Marissa McCool, her books. We got 2 of her books published under Anti-Social Media, and very good books of poetry that love to have people check out. She would greatly appreciate having a little attention brought her way.
Was that one of the links? Was that one of the links that you sent me earlier, or no?
No, but I can send it to you when we get done.
Okay, yeah. Then everybody in the chat, wait maybe 5 minutes after the show, and I'll put that in the description. And if you're watching the rewind, click in the description. It'll be one of the links that'll be there. So, you know, no rush there. And you say that's a book of poetry?
Yes, Marissa is a very good trans author. She's written many other books besides the 2 that I've published for these books of poetry. So she has several books out that if you're an ally to the trans community in any way, you might want to check out or enjoy. They're very good reads.
So not only do you do the horror genre, the fantasy genre, you do any type of book for the publishing that you're working toward?
Yeah, as long as it aligns with my own personal ethical standards. So I mean, I'm never going to publish a book for a Nazi. It's never going to fucking happen.
I was
Never.
about to say, so none of the Proud Boys can come to you and say, "Hey, let's
Yeah.
get this done." You're gonna be like, "No, fuck off."
No, yeah, fuck out.
Right on, right
But
on. Man.
I mean, I'm not going to publish books for flat earthers or anything like that. Like it's just if and most people are going to align with my ethical ideals, especially in the realm of fiction and stuff with stuff like that. But I'll publish nonfiction or anything. You know, any author that's wanting to get their work out there and doesn't know how to get it done and isn't sure where to go or how to get it done, I got you. As long as it's not crazy. Like, you know, I'm not publishing for Westboro Baptist, you know, but you know, I have published. I have helped Christian authors publish also under Atheist Republic. We were not averse to having Christians or Muslims or others who wanted to speak and publish through us to do so. I'm not one to silence someone who's speaking rationally and speaking passionately without trying to do harm or damage. That's fine. But again, you can't do that as a Nazi. There's no Nazi ideas that don't just
Right,
basically espouse violence. So, like,
right,
sorry, can't go there. But you know, for the most part, it's pretty open.
right, right. So if somebody were to start wanting to do a project, what would be your recommendation? Say they wanted to start a book, start writing a book. What would be your recommendation? Because there's a lot of people who aspire, and my experience has been, when they, because a lot of people come to me having done fan films, and my experience has been just write what you know, write, make a lot of bad films, and then eventually you'll start getting good. But just write, do it, make mistakes. What would be your advice to anyone who's like, I've kind of been wanting to do a book, I've kind of been wanting, maybe a book of poetry or a book of, something. What would be your recommendation? Or maybe they have a book and they just don't know how to get published. What would be your recommendation on either one of those two things, or both of them? Because it's the most frustrating thing when you want and you have that passion, but you just don't know. Or you click through all these links and it's like everyone is wanting, $500 for this, or 2,000 bucks for this, and you're like, I give up. So what would be your recommendation?
So as far as the actual writing process goes, it's really a different process for everybody as far as like what gets you going. Some people have to approach it like a job, like I have to sit down, I have to write this many hours a day or this many words, or I haven't actually accomplished something for the day. I'm not that type of writer myself. I have flares of inspiration, so I may sit down and write for 6 straight hours and write 10,000 words in a day, and then I may go a week and a half without touching my keyboard in terms of writing, and then I might wake up the next morning and just like, holy crap, there's a story, and just bust out an entire story in a day. But that's my own personal style, to where I don't get writer's block and I don't sit in front of my computer going, because for writing fiction, you can't force the story.
Right.
The thing that my favorite fiction writer is Stephen King. I know it's cheesy, but like when I was in prison, I read The Stand, the uncut director's version of The Stand, I think 14 times. And it's from start to finish, that is an emotional, just crazy good book. And I've been caught up with his work since I was a kid. And one of the things that he said is, when he was talking about in a book called On Writing, he talks about he doesn't know the story, especially the end of the story, before the story happens. He doesn't know the characters. before they create themselves. You start with a basic idea. This is the basic idea of what I want to talk about, and kind of where these things are sort of happening and what's going on in the moment. And then you build on that as to where it goes, and you let the characters present themselves, and you let the story tell itself. And if you try to force that, you're going to create shit,
Yeah.
because you it's going to be noticeably forced. The story doesn't flow right, it doesn't feel natural. So for me, I can't sit myself in front of my computer and force myself to put a story to paper. It's not going to be good. So I have to do it in my time. And for some people that looks like just procrastination or laziness, but for it's how my mind works. And it doesn't mean I'm not working when I'm not typing. Like, I have stories that are constantly just banging around in my head, and
Yes.
like, they're gonna make it out at some point, but the story ain't working right now. And until it flows right into some semblance of something worth putting on paper, it's not coming out of my head. So I
See,
just let it bounce around there.
see, people don't get that. They also, like, I've tried to describe to people when I'm like, I when you have an idea for a story, but then the character talks to you, and they take it over here, and you're like, well, we got to go over here. Like, they don't get that either. Like, it's unless you know, it's hard to tell people that. And it's like, no, because there's plenty of times where I've written a film, and or you have an idea, and you want it to go here, but you're like, nah, the character wanted it to go over here, and that's, unless you know, you don't know. Yeah.
I had a character present themselves as a racist halfway through the story. I didn't know they were, but that's
Hmm.
just a thing that came out in the story, in their
Yeah.
dialogue, just like boom, and it was like, okay, yeah, that's who you are. And it
Yeah.
came, it didn't come from me, it came from the story,
Yeah.
and that's how it's going to flow, and that's what it is now. And
Yeah.
you have to let that be, because that's what made the story. And
Yeah.
the story is just an idea that hatches in your mind, and then you let it grow up on its own. You don't force
Yeah.
it too much.
Yeah, everything is like a seed when you just water this. No, I completely get what you're doing. I'm getting it. I'm getting it. So William Wells says, Cape burglar here. Hey, Bill, how are we doing, my friend? How are we doing? You keep burgling those capes, my friend. You keep, if it goes missing, I know it's where it's at, man. I know where it's at. So continue with what you're saying though. But I love the fact that, like, I'm getting everything you're saying, man. I get it, and it's hard unless you know, like, you just don't know. I get it.
But I encourage people. A lot of people don't realize this, but everybody's phone, as long as you have a fairly new model phone, has a speech to text feature,
Mhm.
and that's the best way to write a book for your first one anyway. Do it all speech to text, and then when you get a basic manuscript down, then you bring it up on your computer and you edit it, and you look at it, and you piece it back together, and you make it, smooth it over, and make it look right. But your natural speaking is going to create a more consistent flow of
Oh,
thought than your typing, because you're always going to be like back checking your words and your actual grammar and stuff, and like the backtracking is going to cause a break in the story, and
yeah.
it's going to cause problems. So either dictate to your phone and then type it out later while you listen to it, or use speech to text and then edit it later, because it's going to look really sloppy when it comes out like that. Speech to text sucks, but it's better than, if you don't have writing experience, to be able to keep your story flowing without constantly editing yourself at the same time. Most people don't, and that's a real big problem for new writers, is to want to constantly uh, edit themselves while they're writing.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You can't.
See,
You
I
gotta
I have
get the story.
see I have I work in a freezer. A lot of the time I get up, I type on a computer, doing numbers. But when I get up to go do, grab my numbers, I do a lot of talking to myself. Doing the conversations in my head. Is that something you do as well? Holding conversations between the characters, doing both sides of the conversations.
It's not just that. For me, it's my brain is really dumb to a point, because I constantly have movies playing in my head.
Hmm.
And that's the stories that come out in my writing. But there's constantly a movie going on in my head, so I don't just hear the conversation back, and the whole scene is played out in my head. Like, if I was actually decent at screenwriting, like I would write them in screenwriting form as plays or movies, because
Hmm.
that's how they play out in my head.
Hmm. Yeah. So so going for if they wanted to, if they want to get published, they say they have their book, or the early signs of the book, the rough draft, the um, you know it's not published or nothing. How would they go about getting published, or getting checked over to be published? They've typed it out. What would they do then? They come to you, they say, Mr. Rigsby, I've got this. I don't know if it's a piece of shit or if it's gold. What do I do with it? What would they do then?
So my process is really simple. You just email me at excuse me, sorry. Uh, email me at antisocialmedia0@gmail.com, and send me over a description of your manuscript first. Basically, just a description of what the book's about, and basically what you're going to be talking about in it. So I'll first know whether it's something that I'm going to entertain reading. Because I mean, I I don't have the standards of, oh, that shit, I won't publish it. Like, no, I just the standards of, hey, did you put some crazy shit in here that I can't like support on an ethical level? So like
Right.
I have to know the basic gist of what we're going to get into, and if it seems reasonable, then I'm going to go, okay, hey, send me a manuscript. I'll read it over. If it looks good, in general, I'll send you back a basic contract, which is just basically saying, hey, you agree that you're going to let me go through the process of editing this, formatting it, and publishing it through Kindle Direct Publishing, which is Amazon's direct publishing service, which allows you to publish in digital and print format. They actually have hardback printing available now. So I've got one of my books is available in hardback.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's $15. I wouldn't necessarily tell anybody to buy that, but it's available if you
So
want it.
that's one of the things that, like, because I had put I'd worked with David Anderson, and I did the cover for his book, Vampire Syndrome. And to me, it's one of those things of, like, I didn't care. I was like, man, I'm gonna buy 5 copies of this, because it's like, man, how often do you get to see your own work physically, um
Yeah,
and that
I'm making all of mine available in hardback, just so at some point I will order a hardback copy of all of them for
yeah,
myself.
that and
And
that's that.
and
Yeah.
if that's the only ones that ever sell, I don't care. It's an excessive amount to ask someone to pay $15 for a book, and because I understand, like, there's publishing logistics and everything on the other side of
Right.
it too, but like I'm not making maybe $3 off that 15.
Right.
So like I can't encourage anybody to pay that. I can't.
Right.
That's for
Right.
like the hardcore fan who's just like, no, I want the hardback. Like, cool, man, appreciate it. You're awesome.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it won't really help me more than if you get the paperback, which I actually make a slightly from a logistic standpoint, I make a slightly bigger residual off of the paperback than I do the hardback. So
Mhm. But
financially more supportive.
that was the thing that I enjoyed about, like, just to me, it's one of those, just seeing a physical copy, like, on your bookshelf. And like that thing, like, I know paper's going the way of the dinosaur, like, in terms of, like, because, like, Royce, he has like little comic book things on his iPad that he just scrolls through, reads them, and it's like, realistically, like, paper's going the way of the dinosaur, but,
But
like, just seeing a physical copy.
for
What's that?
for for people like us, I mean, especially like the comic book nerds, like, no, the paper copy matters. Like, I've
Yeah.
got there's multiple copies of my books, because all of my books were published under Atheist Republic first, and after I left Atheist Republic, I had them pull them all. And so there's Atheist Republic copies of my books, and then there's my copies of my books, the Anti-Social Media copies. The Atheist Republic ones will never be printed again. So whoever has those besides me, because I still have a copy of all of those, like if ever I'm a famous person, like those are collector's editions, man.
Right,
you can't
right.
get those
No,
anymore.
yeah, no, and that's to me, it's one of those things because I've done conventions, and you know, it's one of those things where it's like when someone comes up and says, "Can you sign this?" It's like, oh my goodness, I'm a Z grade celebrity, yay! You know, it's a, you know, but that's part of the beauty of having something like that, where again, it's like it sits on your shelf, and you're like, that's something you've done, you know.
Well,
But that's
I had a fan at an atheist convention come up and actually he was like, "You are my favorite author," and I was like, "That is." I never thought I would hear that in my entire life, and
that
it's
is
like the
awesome.
greatest feeling in my entire life, besides my kids being born. You know, it was like, holy
Yes,
shit, I'm somebody's favorite author, and that is
yes,
crazy. That
that's
is
cool.
even just one person out of all these billions. Like, there's one dude though. Like, I'm his favorite. That's fucking cool.
That is epic. Yes, that is cool. No, like when you can impact somebody's life like that, when they read it and they're like, man, I've got to have this. I need, you know, like that inspires somebody else, and that type of stuff, especially when there's so much bullshit in this fucking world, you know. And they're like, man, this impacted me. You know, like there's no, like you said, outside your kids being born, you know, there's no greater feeling than that, because it's like you know, so many times writing something, regardless of what it is, if it's an atheist book or if it's a cookbook, you know, it doesn't really, regardless of what it is, the fact that you wrote something that somebody took the time to be like, man, I got to go find this guy out. I got to go tell him. Like the fact that you impacted someone's life that much that they felt the need to go seek you out, that's awesome. Because the only other time that they seek, you know, that someone takes the time to seek someone out is when they're like, oh, I got a hit on him, you know. And that's awesome, because it's like, again, there's so much chaos in this world. We need that positivity, you know, and that's
Well,
so
I don't know.
awesome.
People have sought me out to send me death threats too. So I guess, I mean, there's a flip side to that
Really?
coin. Oh yeah,
Really?
oh yeah, oh yeah. I have a vast email collection of death threats. It's lovely. Yeah, Christians are
God,
very loving and forgiving, especially when you satirize the entire Bible
it,
and
it,
call
it's
God
that
a space wizard.
turn the other cheek thing, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
They choose to take the stoning aspect, not turn the other cheek. You know, it's man, God damn. Oh, bless their hearts.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you ever had to call the have you ever called the police on any one of them, or gone to the police, or is it just the
No, no, it's idle threats from internet macho men, you know, internet Rambos. Like it's
so you need to
it,
make a book out of that, Internet Rambos, and then just publish the books of those. Good
that
Lord.
would be yeah, I'd probably get sued over that for some reason.
Good Lord. That's nuts, man. The fact that people get away with shit like that. See, I don't know, man. Like even commenting stuff online, I tend not to do it. I don't even really thumbs down anything, because it's like, why take the time to do that? Just let them do them. You know, I don't care enough. You know, it's just there's so much negativity out there. Just focus on the positive shit. You know, go hang out with good, like-minded people and let it go. You
Yeah,
know.
nobody's showing up at my house anyway. You know, it's always some idle threat. You know, not that I'm going to let people know where I live or anything, but if someone was to show up at my house, it'd be a terrible, terrible idea. I live in Tennessee. This is a open carry state, full of crazy gun nuts. So if they're around me,
It's probably gonna.
you might want to assume that I'm probably, you know, having to deal with the tribe, so a little bit cautious about it.
Right,
Just to,
right,
just
right.
to,
Just assume. There you go. There you go.
not
So
really a fan of any of that stuff, but you know, when in Rome.
right, right, right. Well, and that's the thing. Like a lot of the wackos that they're like, oh man, I got this gun, I got this gun. It's like, dude, it's kind of like when you go into the bar. You never listen to the wacko that's screaming and yelling. You always look at the guy in the corner who's just quiet, just sipping his drink, like just
Well,
watch who you run your mouth to. You know.
I mean, it's a common misconception by a lot of conservatives that all liberals hate guns and don't have any or wouldn't shoot a gun to save their lives. Is like that is not the case at all.
Right.
Not even a little bit. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah. I personally, I don't care for guns because I feel like once you pull the trigger, you can't take the bullet back. But I grew up on a ranch. I know how to shoot. Like if you tempt me, dude, and especially if you show up at my door, you threaten my family, dude, and that, you know, yeah. So I know exactly what you're saying. Like, dude, don't show up at the house. Don't assume, you
I mean,
know.
I mean, if they outlawed and banned guns somehow entirely in this country, I would be fine with that. That's fine to me. Uh, I also know how to protect myself with knives and swords. So, like, I've lived a life. But if they got rid of them completely, I wouldn't mind at all. That would be a great thing. I wouldn't have to worry about, hey, is my kid going to get shot in school?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's a real concern of mine with a high school age kid right now, and I have serious reservations about whether I'm going to let him continue in our schools.
I got, my kid, he's his second year of preschool because they got 2 years preschool and then they go to kindergarten. And I'm scared to death, man. Like, well, hell yeah, last time we talked, I didn't have Royce. It was my man. So man, it's a lot has fucking changed.
Yeah, I've watched him
But
grow up on Facebook.
uh, like, well, you know how much of a proud papa I am. Like, I live for my kid, but I'm scared to death, man. You
See,
know,
what you do, I couldn't do on Facebook because of the death threats and the people who want to. I can't talk about my family.
yeah,
You never see me talk about my kids or my wife. Never.
yeah, dude.
You never
No,
see me
and
post about that on Facebook.
dude, and that's the thing. Like, I typically never look at anything on Facebook because it's like it opens the door for negativity. Like, and I'm one of those guys where if I see something, I'm gonna want to say something. And I know me, like I get excited very easily, and I will want to. So I don't look at anything. I post my shit, and I very seldom even comment on my own stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I may like it, like a comment, but I very seldom will comment back. But I never look at anything. So I was very surprised when I saw, dude, my boy has like a billion books. Fucking A, man, right on. Like, I was so excited because it's like Clark Kent and Superman. Like, dude has a whole nother life I didn't even know about. Hell yeah. Like, this is cool. But as far as I knew, you don't post anything. And now I kind of understand why. It's because you
Well,
have this
I
crazy
just got off
nutbag.
I just got off a another 30-day ban because apparently you can't tell people that they're pieces of shit on Facebook when you're just straight up being honest. Like, hey, yeah, no, what you're doing is a terrible, horrible, horrible thing, and you're a horrible person for doing it. Like, you can't say that on Facebook anymore, apparently. So yeah, I've been banned for 60 out of the last 72 days for
So,
Facebook.
and that's the thing. Like, I've said, like, once Facebook goes the way of the dinosaur and we get another new social, I'm like, I'm not jumping. I'm not. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. Same thing with YouTube. Like, I'll do shit like this, but eventually, like, I don't care enough about it to be cool or hip or whatever people say. Like, I'm not. I realize I'm old. I'm fat. My cholesterol is through the level. Like, I don't, I know my place. I'm not cool. However, you see on Facebook why it sucks, because you have these fucknuts out there who will scream to high heaven about how they're repressed, although they're sitting there trying to ban all these other people, these immigrants, and all these other things, and repress all these other people. Yet they're the ones repressed, and they're these hypocritical motherfuckers who just should not be allowed to do these things. However, it's their constitutional right. And yet we sit there and say, hey, you know what? That's kind of fucked up. And Facebook would be like, ban. What? And it's just, this is why it's no longer appealing to even post anything of importance.
No, I mean, I kind of made a name for myself by being one of the guys on Facebook that was constantly calling people out for being
Mm,
pieces of shit and on their bullshit. Like that was kind of how I made a name for myself. And like you can't even do that now. So like my whole
yeah,
platform on there is pretty much dead.
yeah,
Uh, you can do it in posts. So that's the thing. I do personal posts all the time, but then like I don't really comment in them, and I'm not going to comment on other people's stuff because when I get into the comment section is when I get banned again
yeah,
for just being honest. Like
yeah,
you should be able to look at someone when they're okay, just as an example, when they're scalping items on the Facebook marketplace and go, "Hey man, you're a piece of shit for doing that." Like, you know, you're a piece of shit for that, right? You should be able to do that because that's how we as a society have kept each other in check for all of these many millennia is by looking at a dude when he's doing something fucked up and going, hey, man, that's fucked up. We all have to deal with this. You're being an asshole. Stop it. But we can't do that anymore. On the biggest platform we have to do it, you're not
yeah,
allowed to call people out. And then when
yeah,
you do call people out, there's no shame anymore.
yeah,
The
yeah.
dumbest people on this planet will say the dumbest thing to your face. And then when you go, hey, man, that's the stupidest shit I've ever heard in my life, they're just like, I mean, that's your opinion. Like, no,
Yeah.
that's
When
not an
it
opinion. That's, you said some idiotic shit, man. And like, they don't feel bad. There's no shame. And it didn't start with Trump, but oh my God, did he
got
just
it got so
he
much.
embodied it. He
Uh,
embodied it and just emboldened all of them. And
you know
now
what?
ignorance is a trophy that they're running around with. Just like, look at my trophy. I'm the
He's their
dumbest.
he's their golden calf, dude. He's their golden fucking calf. Like there's a picture of him where, or he makes his face like anytime when he says something fucking dumb when he's behind the microphone, and he kind of his jaw kind of sticks out and his eyebrow kind of goes up, where he's just like, and I'm just like, dude, I just want to fucking slap you because you are so God. Your ignorance is worn like a fucking like a badge of honor, and these ignorant assholes are just like, that's my man, that's him right there. And it's like don't get me wrong, we've always had our issues, we've always been somewhat divided on issues, but at least we could somewhat come together in the middle and go forward, and at least we had some delusion that we were trying to help each other. But now it's just like nobody gives this does not give a fuck about this, and it's very apparent. And this dude, damn, is just leading the way for ignorance. And I do not see how we come back from this. And that's what's scary about the next generation is like how are they ever going to get past this?
Now, when we have government officials sitting in Congress uh, denying that they saw a fucking insurrection on
Yeah,
January the 6th. Like that wasn't it was just I saw basically like they were just walking through and taking a tour. How,
yeah.
how often are you taking a tour somewhere and somebody shits on a podium or breaks through a fucking window? How many tours you been through like that? Like you ever go to the Smithsonian, somebody's just like shitting in the corner and breaking
if
windows and
if,
stealing
if
shit? Like what kind of tours do you go on,
you
motherfucker?
know,
Like who
I'd have
are
got
you?
I'd have got my money back if I got a tour like that. Like, you know, like what are you talking about, dude? Like, and the thing is, like, you guys certified this shit. And how many of you guys said no, Trump's responsible, and then you guys backtracked it how many months later, and you guys denied that oh, that's what we said, but that's not what we meant. Dude,
It,
fuck
it,
off.
it's all gonna fall apart. I
Yeah,
feel bad for our families,
yeah,
for you,
yeah.
for your son and for my kids. I feel bad for them because it's all fixing to fall apart. I
Dude,
don't think this
it's
country
gonna
has
fall
another
apart.
20 years. I don't think the country has another 20 years before we are literally in warfare at each other's throats.
Dude,
I
I
don't
feel
think
like yeah, it's gonna be in our lifetime. It's yeah, I do I hope we're wrong, dude. Swear to God, man. I hope you and I are wrong, and we can have a third podcast where we're like, you know what, it's ice cream and gumdrops, man. Like,
you
but
know what? It'll take
it's not.
aliens landing on this planet. It'll take aliens landing on this planet for that to happen, because it's going to take some other third party outside of everything else that we're fighting each other over to unite us against a common enemy or some shit, in order for everybody not to just try and kill each other. Because I'm personally at my wit's end. Like, I live in Tennessee. I might potentially walk into Walmart and see a motherfucker with a swastika tattooed on his neck, just walking around like that's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm supposed to just be like, oh, doodly doo, let me go get my milk and eggs. Like, what?
Well, like when I first started dating Mona back in '98, like, people would give us dirty looks because we were interracial dating. And I thought, we'll get better because we're getting past this racism shit. And for a while it seemed like it was, but the past 5 years, like people, whoever's watching this, if you don't agree with me, you can fuck off. I don't care. I don't care about fans. I don't care about subscribers. You guys know how I am. You can fuck off. Trump is an asshole. And if you support him, you can suck my dick. I don't give a fuck.
He's worse than
that guy. That guy opened the box for racists to come out and just exude their racism. I mean, that shit is an all-time high. That guy is a fucking cancer. So, I mean, if you support that, I don't want your support on this channel. And I've always stood by that. And I mean, show me a guy who can gas supporters who are, or gas, not supporters, gas peaceful protest like he did. That guy fucking started a riot. I mean, that guy does not deserve to be out of prison.
No. And the best they're going to manage to, if they ever get him into prison for, is fucking tax evasion. When there's so much worse that he's done.
I don't honestly
take it. Get him for tax evasion, man. Fuck, at least that's something. Please, please.
I don't think I as much as I hope, and I do watch every day hoping, I don't think they'll ever get him for anything. I don't, because I mean, it's like I sat there every day, and that's why I don't discuss politics anymore online, because that anxiety was there every day, and that's why I had to back off it, because my health.
you might want to turn off the comment section on this video once it's posted.
Oh, I don't give a shit, because I mean, realistically, I don't because I mean,
I'm used to it after all the atheist stuff and having folks just, the death threats over making fun of Jesus and stuff, and now with my political views, like I don't care. I know, like I don't. We're gonna, me and certain people on this planet, I'm absolutely certain are gonna part ways because of my ethical views. These are not political views. It's not political at all. It's ethical. It's a matter of ethics.
Yeah. No, I look at that guy, and I see that he is like, if this guy was in my workplace, this guy would have been fired. If this guy was a friend of mine, I would have walked away from him. And I could not imagine anybody saying, if they were a friend of theirs, man, this guy's a great guy. I couldn't imagine if, who shoots or orders tear gas shot into a crowd of peaceful protesters. They weren't rioting. Who allows this? I mean, you put that scenario into a movie and you're like, oh, that's obviously the villain. Anything this guy's done, you're like, oh, obviously that's the villain. The cues that this guy said, obviously the villain. Show me a policy that this guy has that is honestly truly good.
Yeah.
I mean,
the National Guard weren't the heroes at Kent State.
What's that now?
The National Guard weren't the heroes at Kent State.
No. And the thing is, like, again, I'm not the biggest Biden fan. I mean, I'm not. But I mean, it's like, but I look at that guy and I'm like, that guy is the biggest piece of shit. But it's one of those things of like, it's, you can't sit there and say that I'm the biggest Biden follower, but I look at it and I'm like, at least I know that he's a decent person. I don't feel like I don't wake up thinking, oh, this guy's going to try to kill me and my family. Or, I don't have to worry about, well, if this guy gets reelected, he's going to fucking come after everybody who talks shit on him. Or, and I feel like, man, if that guy ever gets reelected, we're fucking dead. It's going to be concentration camps.
I mean, my personal viewpoint on Joe Biden from the moment that he started into the race was his only redeeming quality is he's not a fucking Nazi or supported by Nazis. And aside from that, he's a war hawk. He's a capitalist. He is a fucking corporatist. He is bought and paid for by corporate entities. And he's never going to do anything to really advance the American people. He's not good for America. But he's not a fucking Nazi. That's all I needed. Because the other one was. And was supported by them. And between Nazi or no Nazi, no Nazi. No Nazi.
Yeah, it's not. It's a no-brainer to me.
They put up there, as long as they're not a Nazi, you can go with the not Nazi.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
And only at this point, and that's only because you let the fucking Nazi in last time.
Well, and the thing about it is, like, just look at the losing control of the party. Look at where they've gone now. Now they're feeding. Even though they have how much evidence showing, hey, this shit was supported by Russia, this shit was made up, you have how much evidence showing this is where they're going, and then that's where they went with the QAnon conspiracy bullshit, and they had the FBI showing this is what they were doing, here you go, and they still choose to believe a lie, and it's like, God damn it, what more do you have to do to show that? Like, I personally hope that the January 6th committee puts all the information out there, because I mean I don't expect much. My expectations are so low, but I really do fear for our kids, and it's not hyperbole.
I have no faith in Congress at all. So the January 6th committee is fucking dinner theater. It's just like the goddamn impeachments. It's fucking dinner theater. They're not going to do anything to anybody.
No, the only thing, I mean, honestly, the only thing I feel is arrests, and you need something at this point. I feel like you need more than just arrests. You need actual real change, and you need the people to actually rise up. But sadly, I feel like that rising up is going to lead to those people fighting. And I don't feel like that's what's needed. I feel like what we do need actual real change. But you have people there who've been there for decades, they're out of touch. You need people that are actually going to say, no, we need to change the system. We need people just like with the president. You need us rotating out. We can't keep coming back to the same thing. So
maybe we should actually charge people with treason when they commit treason, and hold them to the actual letter of the law as to what happens to people when they commit treason in this country.
Yeah,
I mean, you put some congressmen in the gallows and see how they start acting after that. Because that's where they're supposed to be, according to our own Constitution. You don't commit treason in this country, and many of them did. Straight up did. Just straight up told people, "Hey, attack our capital. Do it."
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I know some people. Well, I know there are going to be people that are going to disagree, but I agree with you completely. Because I mean, it's like it's like we keep. Well, it doesn't quite technically. No, that was treason. That was fucking sedition. Like, no, we all fucking saw it, and those that don't are in fucking denial. General Grievous says it's sad, but I almost feel like we're on that same path to World War III that Gene Roddenberry imagined, that decimated most of the population. I agree with you. And that's what I feel sad for with our kids. And again, I'm not trying to be, all panicky, but it's, as you sit there and you look at all the signs, it's like, look, Congress every day is more and more divided because they keep worrying about their getting voted back in and all this stuff, and what can we do to win re-election, and appeasing Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Bobbitt and Lori Gohmert and all those asshole people. Like, instead of calling bullshit and be like, no, fuck that, get out of here. Like, you guys are done. Not only expelled, you're kicked the fuck out for being crazy and fucking nuts. Like, instead of calling, instead of calling it the way it is, you're bowing down to the crazies. And it's like, what happened to decency? Instead of standing together, bipartisan, saying, look, come with us, this is wrong. I mean, that's where it falters.
I mean, they always say it gets worse before it gets better. And I am 42, well, fixing to be 42 years old next year. And it's kind of been just like tepidly boiling my whole life. It hasn't really gotten worse, but it's getting there. So I feel like, yeah, we're going to reach worse because we haven't seen worse yet. It's just been a tepid little boiling pool of sort of animosity that's sort of just.
It was about maybe 3 or 4 years. It was about maybe 3 years ago. I had talked to my boss at work, and we jokingly said, because we were watching Rachel Maddow, and because I was like, well, if we ever hear the end of the world, I kind of wanted to be, I want to hear it from a hot lesbian. What better way, And we jokingly said, we jokingly said that, and then all of a sudden, like, we started hearing like all this kind of shit rolling downhill, and I'm like, oh fuck, man, this is, man. And I told him, I said, a couple weeks later, I said, wouldn't it be really messed up if we found out like all these people in Congress and shit was really like double agents and all this stuff, like, because this stuff doesn't add up. And again, like, every day you just keep finding more and more and more. And it's just amazing because, like, every once in a while, like, I'll look back at my friend and I'm like, remember when we had that conversation? He's like, yep. And again, like, when we talk every day, we always have lunch at work, and it's every day. It's just, and it's just fucking, it's amazing and terrifying at the same time, because again, like you said, it's not political, it's ethical. Because again, I don't mind talking to someone that disagrees with me. Some of my best conversations come from that, because, hey, my ideas can change, but let's meet there halfway and talk. I can't talk to those people, because, like, how do you talk to someone that's convinced that the truth can change? The fuck do you do with that? Fucking nuts.
No, I don't talk to them. Like, I don't talk to them anymore. I've written off family and everything at this point, because it's just like, yeah, like, this isn't an agree to disagree. Like, we can agree to disagree on whether mustard goes in potato salad. We can't agree to disagree on whether you should treat a human being like a human being. And we can't agree to disagree on that. That's not a point of contention. And you can't bring any rational, logical reasoning to the table for your side. Like, there's no rational argument you got, and that's the problem.
I find it weird that someone can say, well, you have a constitutional right to own an AK, whatever the number is. I lose track at this point. And they say that's a constitutional right to own something that fires more ammunition off in a second than most people can, like, wow. But yet a constitutional right for a woman to do what their body is not constitutional. Like, that is not a right for them. Like, to me, it's like, do you not see the fallacy in that argument? To me, it's like, that is mind blowing, where it's like, that, what? And they won't even entertain that as an idea. And I'm like, what? Even if she's raped, nope. Really? So she has to carry her rapist's child full term. And then what happens then? Because the state won't take, well, she can always give it up for a doctor. Really? So you want the child? What? Like, it should.
Amy Coney Barrett, our wonderful Supreme Court justice, said, hey, man, there's laws where you can just abandon your kid at the fucking firehouse. So what's the problem? You just have the baby and then you abandon it at the firehouse, and you can do that in any state. It's all 50 states you can do that. So it's okay, right? A Supreme Court justice said that in the Supreme Court. So, yeah, do I have any hope for the future of this nation? No.
And that's the definition of morality right there. That's what's leading. Yeah, it's sadly, I hope, because I think the more democratic judges brought up some very valid points of, like, the stench of what you guys are doing here. If you go this route, it's going to carry with us. I think they made up some valid points. I feel like it's going to fall on deaf ears. I hope it doesn't, but I feel like it's going to. because then it's
This was
open season.
plan number one. This was plan number one for stacking that court.
Yep.
This was plan number one.
Yeah.
Plan number two will be coming after the LGBTQ community and all of their rights.
And
you believe that it's already on the table and it is coming, and that will be the next step in their plan of eradicating the rights of women and marginalized people in this country.
Well, and the thing is, it's that we brought, the Democratic judge brought up a good point. It's not. There's nothing that changed that we needed this law changed. There's no reason to even look at this. There's nothing in the precedents of like the 50 years that we've had that Roe versus Wade. There's nothing that needed this change. There's no reason to reevaluate this.
No rational justification.
No.
It's always my problem. Bring me a rational justification and we'll discuss it. And when you can't, I'm not having a conversation over insanity. Yeah. We shouldn't have to argue over insanity.
No. And that's all we've had. And it started. That's why people who support Trump, you can fuck off, because that's all we've had since that dipshit got into office. And we've had to sit there and listen to stupidity after stupidity after stupidity after stupidity. Every time that fucker opens his goddamn mouth, it's like, Jesus Christ, will you shut the fuck up? Because it's like, I've heard nothing but idiocracy from you. And we've had nothing but listening, dumb arguments, and it's infuriating because it's like I don't want to have to leave my kid that to where we're dumbing down everything, because we're moving toward that world of the movie Idiocracy. I mean, fuck, and that was a parody, but it's so sad how much. Well, that's going to be historical fact if we keep going the way we're going.
Actual, true Trump supporters only make up about 25, maybe 30% of the voting population in this nation. Not the whole population, just the voting population. Those people should not have enough say to influence the other 80 to 70% of this country.
Well, look at what the two, I forget their names right offhand. The two Democrats that fucking held up, the bullshit, for so long. Like, look at that. Two members of Congress should not have the ability to stifle the rest of the party just because of that. I mean, to me, this whole system in this country is broken. And I love this country. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. But when you see something that's broken, and I know I've been told before, you hate this country. No, I fucking don't. My dad was in the military for 20 years. My whole family has been in the military. Like, I don't hate this country. But when you see something that's broken, you call bullshit out when you see it. And this is bullshit.
I hate the U.S. government, and I hate most U.S. systems of governance, because from the political systems to the judicial system to the corporate ladder and the caste system in this nation, and do not think for a second there's not a caste system in this nation. I guarantee you, if you grew up in a trailer park like I did, you know for damn sure there's a caste system, because you probably ain't getting out of that motherfucker. If you grew up in the projects, you know for damn sure there's a caste system, because you probably ain't getting out of that motherfucker ever. If you do, best you're probably going to manage is middle to upper middle class, where I'm at right now.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like,
scrape every moment to get here.
Well, I mean,
just barely staying afloat while I'm here.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, for me, like I've had to scrape. I mean, the shit that I went through with my mom. Like, dude, I worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, for fucking 10 years. I'm okay. I mean, I'm good now money wise, but I mean, that's me and my wife working our ass off. My son will be good, but look at my life. I'll never retire, ever. How many of us will never retire? We're going to work ourselves to death. And back when my dad was, working, there was a middle class. There is no fucking middle class anymore. That is a fucking pipe dream that we once had back when, when my dad was working. You could retire. You can't now. My grandpa fucking, he had 2 retirement checks, and he could then retire. But he had 2 jobs. He retired from the military, then he had to get another job, work 20 years, then he retired. If it wasn't for that, he couldn't retire. So I mean, it's our system is broken. You have to have 2 jobs now. You can't work on minimum wage, and I mean, it's we are fundamentally on every level broken. Spiritually, we're broken. Ethically, we're broken. And it's those few of us that understand this, that we see the train coming.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that's why I don't too much mind, because I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna come out the other side of that okay, and probably better off in the long run. But a lot of people won't, and I feel really bad for them, because a lot of people aren't going to be able to take care of themselves through that type of storm.
Yeah,
a lot of people are going to be gone.
Well, I mean, look at the QAnon people who are just blown away by, what do you mean John F. Kennedy Jr. didn't come back? What? And they're writing letters to Trump and to whoever else it was. Why is this not happening? Why is it? Because you've lost reality. You and I see reality. We know it. We know it's like, I mean, what? All we can do is show our kids, like, hey, this is how it is. Don't lose sight of fucking reality.
I have to wonder how many of those people who have to use a motorized cart to get around Walmart to get groceries honestly believe that they're going to come out the other side of a civil war smelling like roses. Like, I don't understand their mindset there. They're like all for it. Like, yeah, let's fight. You can't fight. You can't walk. How are you going to fight? You don't really want that. But it's probably coming, and it's because you won't stop yelling about it. All you got to do is sit down and let people live, man, and it'd be okay. That's all people want. Just leave them the fuck alone, let them live. That's all anybody wants.
Well, that's exactly it. They stick their nose in where, oh, you can't have an abortion. Well, what does it have? Like, ultimately, what does it have to do with you? I mean, abortion has nothing to do with me. I'm never going to have one. Mona's never going to have one. Like, it's like, that is nothing. Like, none of this trans rights has nothing to do with me. Abortion has nothing to do with me. None of this has anything to do with me. But yet, I still support that. Like, hey, this has to do with equal rights. And why are we regressing? So I sit there and I'm like, what does this have to do with me? Like, why am I fucking with it? Why are you fucking with that? Leave them the fuck alone. And it's like, what next? Am I going to say, hey, because Mona's black, I'm going to take her rights away? Like, at what point does it say, hey, stop regressing? Stop it. And again, you keep poking the nest, those bees are going to fly out and fuck you up. Keep fucking with it.
I mean, it's very frustrating for me personally, because I have an understanding that it honestly takes more work to not just be a decent person, to like fight against LGBTQ people or black folks or whoever it is you personally hate. It takes so much more effort to actually fight against those people and to try to deny them something than to just let them fucking be. It takes so much more effort to misgender someone than to just go, oh, you prefer that pronoun? Okay.
Yeah.
Like, it is so much easier to just go, all right, that doesn't fucking affect me, whatever, and go on with your fucking life. You put in actual work to disenfranchise another motherfucker. Like, that is hatred. That's hatred, when you're going to go out of your way to
that's a whole nother level.
Work to hurt someone. That's hatred. And you're a piece of shit for that, because it's so much easier to just go, yeah, that doesn't affect me. What the fuck ever.
Yeah.
You
want me to
call you? What do you want me to call you? I'll call you what the fuck ever you want me to call you. You want me to call you doctor and you don't have a doctorate? Whatever, doctor. How's it going, doc? I don't give a fuck. How does that hurt me? It doesn't. Yeah. It takes so much more work for me not to do it.
Yeah.
Why should I care?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
I'm not putting in the effort of hating those people. I have other people I have to put in real effort for hating, like fucking Nazis, and fucking fundamentalist Christians, and fucking fundamentalist Muslims, and people who are actually out here murdering people in the street. I have to put in real work for hating them. I don't have time to hate other people for nonsense. It's too much work. It's just easier to go, that doesn't bother me. What the fuck ever.
Absolutely. But hey, we've been here about an hour and 24 minutes. I got to go get Royce here in a second. But dude,
Yeah.
for real, like I love talking with you about this stuff. I wish we had more time. And man, it has been far too long since we've talked. And I next time, sometime in the next 6 months, I want to have you back on, even to just talk
Definitely.
politics. Because dude, I love it's a topic I love talking about. And again, I don't care who comes or goes. Even just to bullshit with you, man. Be like, man, isn't this fucked up? Craziness going on. I want to have you on and to talk about what you have going on with your projects, because again, I think it's something that we should be talking about, because I get excited about that type of stuff. So would you be willing to come back and talk about in maybe the next 6 months or so, talking about it?
Yeah, definitely love to.
Good.
I haven't
Good.
actually been on any podcasts or done much since leaving Devils in God's Country, so it's been a blast for me too. It's been
Right
a
on.
while since I've
Like
done
I said,
this.
like I said, I don't have a large audience, but I know they're pretty loyal. And Frank Barker Jr. said earlier that he loved the conversation, that it was really enjoyable.
Yeah, I saw that. Thank you.
General
Thank you very
Grievous
much.
said thanks for coming. And I this is why I love the program. Like I told you, it's very laid back. I don't mind jumping subjects and talking, and just where the road takes us. But you're one of the coolest people that I know, and I mean that all sincerity. But send me that link to your friend's book about the poems so I can put that in the description. So everybody in the chat, give us about 5 minutes and I'll have that up there. Everyone in the rewind, click on the description and go find something to read. I'm sure there'll be something, and show support. And with that being said, everybody in the chat, be genuine, be safe, and keep on geeking on, guys.